Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting, red hot, spicy, scintillating episode of the Chocolate Bros podcast.
Hello, everybody. Everything that he just said,
Yeah,
plus an extra 2 levels because
we haven't done a podcast. I'm gonna say in maybe 2 or 3 months.
4 years and 8 days to be exact.
4 score and 7 years ago.
That's right. We
know
last
how-
did a podcast.
Do you know how long a score is?
20 years.
There you go. So it's been 87 years since we've done
That's
the
right.
podcast.
87 years last did a podcast.
Yeah.
It's been too long, Adam.
Yeah, it's been way too long. And
Yeah.
several people have asked me via email to try to get the podcast thing going again.
Yes.
We have discussed, but between ourselves off air, that we're going to maybe try to do one of these once a week. I think that's a fair goal. And
Well, we were doing
an
that.
achievable goal.
Yeah, we were doing 1 or 2 a week up until things got super mega hyper busy.
That's right.
And now we're gonna try and get back into the swing of that.
Yeah, these podcasts are fun for us to do.
They are fun.
Yeah.
For us to do. At least, well, it's more fun for you probably than me. Because
Yeah.
you get to listen to the comedy stylings of one Brian Horseman.
Actually, bro, it's the comedy stylings, but you do have I'd say like a bank of knowledge that is very unique. My knowledge is more generic than yours, but since you lived out in Campo in Peru for so long, you do have a very unique viewpoint and a specific set of knowledge that people can't get elsewhere.
I'm like Liam Neeson. I have a specific set of skills that are, in his case, it's a set of skills that are apt for, directly dealing violently with terrorists and people that kidnap his daughter. In my case, it's for having a lot of really specific knowledge about Peru, Campo, cacao, and chocolate.
Liam Neeson was also in Schindler's List.
He was.
Great movie.
He's been in a lot of great movies. Should we do a deep dive about Liam Neeson movies?
You brought him up, man. You compared yourself to me. Actually, what I'd like you to do is tell me more ways in which you're like Liam Neeson.
I also have a gravelly bad American accent.
Does he have a bad American accent?
I think he doesn't have a great American accent, so he kind of defaults to talking like this because it's the way he conveys Americanness.
I see. Yeah, you know a lot more. You know a lot more about Liam Neeson. I would never, ever would have thought to compare your time in Peru and the knowledge that you've accumulated with Liam Neeson's roles.
You may not have gotten that reference because in a particular movie of his, he says to a bad guy who kidnapped his daughter, he says, I have a specific set of skills and I will use them to hunt you down. He talks about his specific set of skills. It's a Liam Neeson reference that may have gone over or under your head or around the side of your ear without interest.
I wonder how the listeners are going to react to that reference.
Well, now that I've explained it, hopefully they'll figure it out.
All right. Sounds good. So listen, on today's episode here of the Chocolate Bros podcast,
yes,
we're going to be telling people everything they ever wanted to know about exporting cacao out of Peru.
Well, and even more than that, just about about dealing with chaos, which is required if you're going to go to, live in, work from, have a business in, or anything sort of related to Peru and probably most third world countries.
And really, honestly, if you're going to be a business owner at all,
or
be in charge of any business.
It's not unique. It's not by any means unique to Peru. Peru has its own specific, unique set of weird, chaotic things. Though.
Yes. And I think in addition to that, one thing that we have both noticed is that in the world and in the times that we are living in, things that used to be smooth sailing, things that we used to take for granted and always assume that they would just click along. It's not like that anymore. Things that used to be easy are now a total pain in the butt.
Yes.
I don't know if it was COVID that caused it, or probably COVID caused it. Now it's being exacerbated by the war going on between Russia and Ukraine or something.
Yeah.
But something broke and it's still broken.
I think COVID broke the system and the ability to repair it hasn't seemed. It's like, it was like the system was sort of was some sort of elastic band, and it kind of stretched and contracted and stretched and contracted, but it always did. And then COVID kind of broke it. And then now we've tried to splice it back together, but it just wobbles and it doesn't quite connect. And nothing's working right.
As an aside, I heard somebody made an interesting comment about the American population, like literally the growth rate of our population. Yes. And they said that Americans should be having more kids because all of the infrastructure items that need to be taken care of for us to live the life that we're accustomed to, we're not going to have enough people.
Specifically younger, cheaper, younger people who
Just
work.
younger people who are working. Like there's not enough people in future generations to
Well,
continue
this is the argument
continue to
for,
keep the system running.
right. This is the argument for immigration.
Yeah.
And always has been.
That makes it so that in that way, having organized but consistent, it's basically you're basically just recruiting at this point, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
if you have like a legalized, organized way of getting the best people to come over to your country from other countries, it's almost like job recruiting into a corporation. You're
very
trying to get
much
the best talent.
very
Yeah.
much so. You're trying to attract talent. Yeah, I mean, so as countries, typically demographically, as countries get wealthier and more and higher educated, they tend to have less children until up to the point where they don't have a replacement rate. And then you need to either contract your economy, automate using robots and other type of things, or look for outside, qualified outside talent to bring in. Just as it is with a company, it is with nations. It's a well-established, it's not nothing new. It's not even really a political statement. It's just a fact of economics.
No, well, how you facilitate
How you do it is
immigration
politics.
it ends up being political.
Correct.
But the fact that getting the best people possible from all over the world living in your country is a good thing.
Mhm.
That I don't think too many people are going to argue with that. But what made me go on to that, and before we even get into talking about exporting cacao, is you just told me a story about what you literally missed a flight because American Airlines only had one employee working. Go ahead and tell us the story.
Okay, so you and I got to talking about just general chaos that's happening in the world today, and as it relates specifically to Peru. And you have a great story in that regard. But what I told you was on my last trip down to Peru, which was a few months ago, I had a ticket booked on American from Seattle's SeaTac airport through Dallas to Lima, and then onward in Peru from there. And I have the TSA pre-check and clear. So it takes me an average of 4 or 5 minutes to get through security at the airport. Like, I'm very fortunate to have those two services. And so I typically don't get to the airport all that much ahead of my flight. And I typically don't need to talk to any reception, but this time I did. It's an international flight. I needed to check bags because I was taking all the amazing contributions, the donations that people had sent us to give to the farmers in Peru. So I had 2 big bags to check, and internationally you have to talk to an agent. So I got there 2 hours and 45 or even 50 minutes ahead of the flight, thinking hour and a half to get the stuff checked in would be nightmare level. And then I'll shoot right through security and boom, away I go. I got there and to the American counter at SeaTac, major American airport. And there were, they have the rope line set up where you have to, the serpentine, where you have to go back and forth. And there was kind of like a 1 back and about 3/4 of a fourth. And I was maybe 15th in line to get to
So you're thinking this would be like 40 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes.
Yeah, potentially. There was one person, there was one agent helping people check in, and I assumed that meant that there were 2 or 3 other agents that were doing something else and would come and get. And then, I figured it would be 20, 30 minutes, even at the outside 40, 45, and then I'd be through security and having some breakfast over on the other side. And I sat there, and I sat there, and I sat there. The gal who was the one agent was working had an accent, maybe German or Northern European accent, and she was flustered. She was having some computer issues. There were a lot of people in line, as I found out later, that had pets or weapons in their baggage, and there were things that required some extra administrative attention. And she was working, and I stood there, and time went by, and time went by, and time went by, and I was starting to think, like, am I going to make this flight?
Well, to just stand for 2 hours is lame.
In the same spot.
Really lame.
There were some other people from American there, but they were lower level. That all they could do was receive baggage. They couldn't and give a ticket. They couldn't get on a computer and help people.
And if you were planning to eat breakfast, your stomach probably started grumbling at some point.
Yeah. So I was starting to get worried. Like, am I going to make this? So we in 2.5 hours, I moved about 8 feet. I think she got through maybe 4 or 5 of the parties ahead of me. Someone else did show up, and they started moving it. And I was like, I'm kind of in a race against the clock here. And then, like, as I was maybe 5th in line, like the final boarding call for my flight sounded. And then I was like, yeah, I missed my flight. And I didn't miss my flight because I was late. American themselves left me in line. And so I got up there. Now, I give credit to American. They took care of me. They rerouted me, got me. I ended up having to fly to Miami instead of Dallas. They put me on a first class seat for the domestic leg, and then from Miami on a red eye to Peru.
So,
and they got me there, and even gave me a ticket to get into their club. So they took care of the problem. But it was astounding to me that I stood in that line 2.5 hours.
So you've been flying your whole life.
Yes.
Even as a little kid, I know you were flying around when you were 4-year-old.
Yes, I started flying when I was 4.
And I started flying when I was like 6. We both of us had experiences as young kids with having our parents fly us around the country to go visit family members.
Correct.
Can you recall a time when a shortage of counter people caused you to miss your flight?
Absolutely not. In fact, and I don't cause myself to miss flights. I don't think I've ever been so late. I think I may have missed a flight in my life, but it was probably like a connection issue. So it was just unprecedented.
It was just a clear people shortage.
They just did not have the people. There was just nobody else on shift. The new shift started 15 minutes before my flight left, and those people showed up, but it was too late at that point.
Yeah. So on our last trip to Peru, which we just went to Peru, like we just got back 10 days ago or something. Mm-hmm. And we were down there for a few weeks.
And who's we in this?
It was me, my wife Mary, and then our 3 kids, Isaiah, Levi, and Daniel.
And how old are the boys?
9, 6, and 3.
So it's already a tough.
It's already.
I mean,
and
traveling with 3 kids. Oh boy.
And Mary lives in Celandine. And I don't even think I told you, like driving out to Celandine, we had a barfarama because of the road from Cajamarca to Celandine.
That road is nothing but switchbacks, and and the road's in great condition now.
I did tell you about that. Yeah, and it used to take 6 hours.
I know.
And now because the roads weren't paved. But
so people should understand something. When you go to Celandine, you have to, from the United States, you have to fly into Lima, the capital of Peru, which is on the coast, about halfway of the country, north to south. Think of Peru as roughly California shaped. It hugs the coast.
Yep.
It's got it's
mountains down the middle.
Right. It's got a long coastal desert strip, mountains running the length of the country, and then jungle behind it on the east side. And right where San Francisco would be, right at the bend, right at the midpoint, is Lima. And then from Lima, you have to take another flight or a 15-hour bus ride. It's a 1-hour flight or a 15-hour bus ride.
We took a flight.
Of course you took a flight. To Cajamarca, which is the regional capital city of about 150,000 people.
I think it's up to like 300,000 now, Brian.
And maybe, high in the Andes Mountains, nestled in a beautiful mountain valley.
What's the altitude there? Like 10,000 feet?
It's almost 9,000 feet. Right in Cajamarca proper. And then from Cajamarca, you have to get in some sort of conveyance, some sort of vehicle, and go another couple hours.
We went in a pickup truck.
Right. Another couple hours to Celandine, a road that has in the last 10 years been paved and is in quite good conditions. But before that was an absolutely torturous, bumpy, kidney busting, dirt road.
And it would take it took 5 to 6 hours. And it was just bopping and bumping up and down the whole time. So we on our recent trip, I'm saying like literally every time we had to get off the plane and get on another plane, some obstacle came up that we've never had to deal with
before you even got on a plane.
We had our plans an international flight. Mary, my wife, wanted to show up at the airport like 5 hours early. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was
she heard my horror story about the American.
I thought it was excessive, but like I've learned my lesson after we celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary while we were in Peru. So after 18 years of marriage, I've learned my lesson. It's like, all right, you want to show up 5 hours early? Let's just show up 5 hours early. Like whatever. We showed up. So I came home. I left work early. I came home, and the kids were all excited. They packed the night before. Yeah. They're all dressed up. They're like, "What time are you coming home from work, Dad?" I'm like, I'm going to be home at 3. All right, we're going to go. I came home. First thing I get home, just long faces on the children. I said, what happened? They said, flight's been canceled.
Oh,
so we were going to be
from the flight out of Seattle.
We were going to fly from Seattle to Fort Lauderdale. Mm-hmm. And then it was going to be a direct flight from Fort Lauderdale to Lima. So that canceled. And
JetBlue, right?
It was going to be JetBlue. Yep. And I guess there was bad weather in Florida. So all these flights out of Florida got canceled. So we couldn't even get on.
And that's the most frustrating thing. You'd love to blame the airline, but you can't. It's the weather.
We couldn't. No, we couldn't. Yeah. And since everybody, and it was during spring break, so everybody who had to go, who was already in Florida or had to fly through Florida on a connection was
Mhm.
flooding the phone lines.
Solid planning to go through Fort Lauderdale on spring break week. Like
I
what
didn't-
could
look,
possibly go wrong? I know you never
I
think
don't,
about that.
I don't
stuff.
want to, I don't want to hang my wife out to dry, but she's the one who bought the tickets.
No, but
anyway.
she would never.
Yeah,
She's
no,
not from
no.
here, and she doesn't have that idea
No,
in her head.
and we bought these tickets like way in advance to get
Right.
good prices.
Sure.
So anyways, that that got canceled. We started like scrambling around trying to find new tickets. We eventually found new tickets. We ended up staying the night at the airport. By the time
man.
we were like scrambling around trying to find like what we were going to do, it ended up being 10:30 at night.
Mm.
And the plane was leaving the next day like
So you
5
were-
a.m.
Oh, so you were at SeaTac, and you guys made the strategic decision to not go the half hour back to your house from SeaTac because it's with 3 guys, it was just too much of a chore.
Yeah, and
And all the bags.
we were gonna have to, and we would have had to Uber. We had a ride lined up. We were gonna have to Uber in. It's like, you know what? We're just gonna go sleep at the airport. We did that, but so we're there. But before we could even get on the plane, they told us there was some COVID related paperwork that we had to fill out that we hadn't filled out.
Man.
So it's like 4:30 in the morning. We slept in the airport. We're filling out paperwork.
So you guys are feeling really fresh, really energetic,
dude.
rested.
I
Really
don't think
rested.
I'm telling you, at the end of this trip, like by the time we actually got to Peru,
Yeah.
I had never smelled so bad, dude. Never. There is no precedent for how bad I smelled.
I mean, I smell you a lot, Adam. That's a bold statement. That's a bold statement.
Dude, but had you been with me then, yeah, like I just and on the last leg of the trip, we're flying from Mexico City. So we flew from Mexico City to Peru, to Lima. And then
So Seattle to San Francisco to Mexico City, Mexico City to Lima.
And just on every step of the way, we got our 3 kids, we got all of our bags and stuff. It's like some other thing that we didn't know we were gonna have to do, that we had to do. Like it happened every time. And I told you, after sleeping in the airport in SeaTac, and then going to San Francisco, and then going to the airport in Mexico City.
Yeah.
We finally passed through immigrations. We had like a 4-hour layover before we're gonna get on the flight to Lima.
And typically a layover in Mexico City is no problem because they have a nice.
It's a mall. It's a mall.
They have a nice airport. They have really good food options.
The good food options.
Friendly people, easy security, like the whole thing. Yeah.
Like I've been sweating. I've been carrying my 3-year-old around because he fell asleep. So I'm like carrying him in one arm and pulling my luggage behind me. I've been sweating. I haven't showered. Like haven't brushed my teeth. I just a mess,
Yeah,
I got dad. I don't have much hair, but I could still get dad hair if I sleep on an airplane. So what little hair I have is like sort of slanted in one direction.
Yeah.
So we pull all of our luggage up to this Mexican food restaurant, and we piled up we have all these bags. We piled everything up. We sat down at this table. There's a soccer game on TV. We ordered some tacos, ordered a salad, got a cup of coffee. I'm like, all right, I'm finally gonna sit here.
Let me take a deep breath.
Let me just
regather and
like I finally got 4 hours to just collect myself. Got a cup of coffee. There's some stuff on the TV. The kids are entertained because they got food. So we sit down, and my oldest son Isaiah, right when I was about to take my first sip of coffee, just barfs on the table.
Just threw up everywhere, huh?
Yeah, and it's like, oh,
man.
great. So we got to deal with that. But so we ended up getting.
And by the way, was he just stressed? Was it just travel stress, or was he sick?
No, he was just exhausted.
Oh man!
And he tried to eat something, and he just couldn't handle it.
Poor guy, because it's not like he wanted to. Like he's such a good guy.
No, and he's a stud too, but they just didn't sleep enough. So you get to Lima. It's another country. You got to pass through immigrations again. You got to pass through immigration again. We passed through immigration.
I think we've talked about the fact that Lima Airport, even though it's been rebuilt and is way better than it used to be, is a fairly chaotic.
It's the whole
place.
yeah. And there's just a ton of people. We finally went through immigration. We got on the plane to go to Celandine, and
Cajamarca.
Pardon me, to Cajamarca.
Yeah.
And like there's a bunch of people who work in the mining industry in Cajamarca.
Sure.
And
I used to be one of them.
And there's a particular class of Peruvians who are like real butt. They almost look like Europeans, They're tucked in, and this was like he was like an Asian Peruvian guy, And he was like well put together, dude.
For people that don't know, there is a not a very robust, but there is a notable presence of Asians, mostly of Japanese descent in Peru that came over like 100 years ago as workers on railroad and other and mining projects, and they have created an Asian Peruvian population now.
So and this guy was flying from Lima to Cajamarca, and like everything about him was upper class Peruvian guy.
Yes,
he's like nice button-up collar shirt, had a nice gold watch on, like European style leather shoes. On the flight, he's got his laptop open, he's doing spreadsheet work. Like he's a total like professional guy, and I've never smelled worse. My hair's all jacked up, dude.
Got 3 kids, probably crying.
I sweated. I cleaned up barf. Like I hadn't changed my socks in 3.5 days.
Oh man!
Like, and I just felt. I'm telling you, dude. I felt so self-conscious sitting next to this dude.
Oh, you sat next to him?
Yeah, I sat next to him.
Oh no!
I was sitting next to him on the flight from Lima to Cajamarca. So it's like a 3-seat plane. He's by the window. I'm in the middle. I got my baby next to me. I got Daniel, the 3-year-old, next to me. And I just like, I said hi to him. I'm like, hey, I looked over. Hola, ¿cómo estás? He looked at me. He's like, oh, God. Like, I just give me like, who are you? You lower class American. Like, why are you here bothering me? So I that just totally felt inferior in that moment. But anyways, we ended up making it to Celandine. We had a great time there. But and the reason I told you that story is because you were telling me about the preparations that you're making to export cacao. And what I was telling you is, based on how things are nowadays, I can guarantee you everything about this thing, this whole shit,
and every step going to be operation.
Every step will be way more challenging than it ever has been before.
And so here's
it's guaranteed.
It's like some kind of weird osmosis is happening, because not only is the world throwing every possible curveball at us. So right now we have
not just us, dude, just all over. It just is what it is.
Complete chaos and disarray in Peru based on the government being absolutely incompetent and just not getting anything done.
And the worst it's been in a long time.
By the way, Peru has set the bar low over several generations, and this government is far surpassing all previous records for bad management and incompetence. So already there's incompetence, there's social protest. The price of gas is rising precipitously due to the war in Ukraine.
Over $8 a gallon, dude.
$8 a gallon for gas. There's been a transport strike. There's been airport worker strikes. So we're having a lot of the truck transport from Campo to Lima. Those trucks just are not operating.
Well, by the way, let me just chime in. Another thing is, when we got, like, this is the only break we got. When we showed up in Cajamarca, the very first thing the guy who picked us up from the airport said, who was a friend of my brother-in-law, he's like, if you would have come here yesterday, you probably wouldn't even have got out of the airport.
Because there was an airport strike.
Because so that was the one break we got. Otherwise, if we'd showed up a day earlier, we'd have been stuck in the Cajamarca airport.
And they would have been like, sir, you smell terrible. Can we, you're going to have to.
Can you wait? But can you get back on the plane?
Do you see those cows out there on that field by the runway?
Yeah.
Can you please?
Yeah. We're going to need you to wait in the bathroom.
Right. But sir, in the stall, if you don't mind.
We don't want anybody to see you here. So that was the one break we got. So like the roads have been shut down. Torrential rains, mudslides,
the whole deal that we've talked about before. The truckers. So when there's a transport strike in Peru, what they do is that, you've mentioned it in your emails before, they take a bunch of rocks and they block the road. And then at some certain point, the police will come and unblock the road, typically the national police, the PNP, the Peruvian National Police. But then those syndicate truckers, those unionized truckers that are what they try to do is they try to enforce the strike on other truckers that do not care to take part in it and wish to continue offering transport services. So what they will do is they will actually get in front of the truck and force it to stop. And then they will intentionally puncture the tires of the truck with like long sharpened screwdrivers and sometimes rough up the driver. So the drivers have been reticent to operate from Campo to go to Lima, and they cannot charge a price high enough to make money considering the cost of fuel. So it's very, very difficult. We're having to bring a truck up from the coast and then down back to the coast and down to Lima. So it's been, as you said, every step of the way. And then there's some weird osmosis by which the chaos of the world infects your own operations. I'm changing accountants, and And we got everything switched over. And you need to log in to the Peruvian equivalent of the IRS to do certain form submissions to export before you can even take your stuff out of Campo. And we went to log in, couldn't do it. The password didn't work, didn't recognize the question. I reach out and figure out that this new accountant had changed everything, all our login information, and neglected to tell me. And the reason we needed to log in is because now this is a real third world thing. In order to get the stuff on the truck and take it to port, you have to have phytosanitary certification. For people that don't know what that means, it means that a government entity certifies that these beans are clean and free of pests, insect infestations, any kind of contamination.
And I've sent out pictures of the gentleman who comes and does the phytosanitary.
Yes. So
check at a warehouse.
That is what they call him, the ingeniero, which is
That's right.
Technically means engineer, but it's sort of a term of respect. It's like Mr. or Doctor or something in the United States. And he is the one inspector for the entire high-end San Ignacio region. And now this is an official government functionary who's getting paid by the government to do his job. But to book his time, you must pay him additionally. It's a bribe. Let's call it what it is. You have to bribe this guy to come do his government paid job. And that's a very common thing in the third world. Now, I'm sure things like that exist in the United States where you
But it's not as open though.
It's not as open.
You can't just pay off a cop here.
No, that I'm guessing that there are situations in the US where you need a building inspection done. And to get the building inspection done, you're expected, let's say that this is a big city, let's call it Boston or whatever, and it's like a mob type thing. Like you gotta slip this guy an envelope with $400.
But even so, it feels dirty to do it.
It's filthy to do it. I mean, this is like 100% straight up bribe.
But everybody does it. I mean, it's just a part.
You have to, because you have to have your phytosanitary cert to even get the things on the truck. If you don't, they're just not going out. And so you've got to pay the guy, and he's the only guy. And he's probably
there should be another guy.
Well, of course there should, but he did. So this guy's kicking upstairs, I'm sure. And it's a lot of these jobs, you have to actually purchase the right to have this job. And you would pay thousands of dollars to get this job in the knowledge that you'll make it back up in the graft payments.
That's really old school.
It's a patronage system.
Honestly, man, I've been listening now while washing my dishes. So I listen to an audiobook when I wash the dishes. I just started listening to The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. It's an old book written by I think this guy's Edward Gibbon or something like that.
Okay.
And that's how rich people used to buy the way into the Catholic Church to be a cardinal, so that they could receive whatever the
tithes and
the tithes, or just blatantly people would buy the way into being tax collectors and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like that still.
Absolutely.
A government guy will literally pay to get a job so that he can go out and collect bribes.
My guess is that guy paid like 20,000 soles to
really.
To somebody in the national office or the regional office of SENASA, the national sanitary,
that's old school, man.
It's like the FDA of Peru.
That's wild.
In order to get that job, in the understanding that he would be there for a certain amount of time, 8 years or something. And in that time, he is expected to charge 300 or 400 soles per visit.
In addition to the salary.
Right, he'll receive his salary, but he's expected to charge 300 or 400 soles of each person that wants to get their phytosanitary registration or phytosanitary cert for their export, and then he will be expected to kick 100 of that back up to the person that he already paid the 20.
And how do you find that out for the first time? Does he just tell you? He's like, hey, "Yeah, I need you to."
It's all done in a very oblique conversation. So I mean, everybody knows, and it's Peru, so everybody expects it and knows it. But I have been asked in a very roundabout, oblique way for bribes, and I have both played dumb and pretended I didn't know what I was being asked, and also just said, like, "What's your price?" And done it that way. So there's different ways that you can do it, but my guess is that Oscar Ayala, our amazing Campo coordinator, field ops guy who's there, he knows the system. These are two Peruvians talking, and the ingeniero probably said something like, there's going to be some additional costs, and I hope you'll be able to help me out with the costs because I have to get there and I'm going to need some food. So basically, when this guy comes out, we buy him lunch, we pay for his transport both ways, we tip him tip him to do the service. And all the while he is charging the government, he's getting a salary, a fixed salary, and he's charging the government for those same travel costs.
But how are his ethics on the actual final phytosanitary exam?
If you pay him the money, I assume he would never fail you. The whole point is you're paying. Not
no,
only
but
for him
I'd be
to come
like,
out,
what if your stuff isn't phytosanitary?
if he actually found a nasty infestation, or he probably can't expect
Because
to
of the
keep his
government
job by
job,
passing it. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a government job at the end of the day. So he does have to actually inspect, but he's not in the business of telling his paying repeat customers.
Brian,
No.
have you ever just paid off a cop in Peru? How many times?
20 times.
That's something, dude, that you just would never.
It might be more than 30. I mean,
you think cops in the United States take bribes? No.
I've heard that they used to, but I've certainly never encountered it.
Okay.
I mean, it's always, I've paid off cops, improved all but maybe one of those situations, call it 3 of those situations, were traffic stops where they just pull you over either for something you actually did, or they make up something and it's really just a shakedown. And
do they ask? Or they say like,
well, they never come out and say you have to pay me. They say it's the same thing. They say, we need to get gas for our truck, or we're hoping to, we need to eat lunch, and maybe you can help us with lunch or something. They never come out and say, pay me. It's always about some cost that they have. With the implication being that, boy, it'd be great if you could help me pay the,
man, that's
spray this.
I know, like, so to my American ears, that's such a dirtbag move.
Yeah,
but it's probably just part of the deal.
It's so regular. By the way, I've paid at least 100 times, because going from a campo just to my end, they frequently set up roadblocks.
Oh, so on this trip, driving from Cajamarca to Celandine, the guy who was driving us back and forth he was a friend of my brother-in-law. He's a guy, he earns his living by driving back and forth.
Yeah,
between Cajamarca and Celandine.
And he takes sometimes people, sometimes cargo, and probably mostly both.
Yeah, exactly. And and my brother-in-law Pablo,
this would be a King Cab Toyota Hilux truck with room for 2 people in the front, 3 people in the back, and cargo in the back.
It's something like that. Yeah. That's right.
It could be also a Mitsubishi.
So, but it was a Mitsubishi, and he like another guy who was driving in the other direction said, "Hey, there's a cop up there."
Yes.
He took a left down a crazy country road,
probably because he was driving illegally. He didn't have,
or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
He took us on a crazy dirt country road and came out like the other side.
Yes.
And avoided the cop.
I have done that. I have not done that myself, because I always have my paperwork in order, but I have been the recipient.
Yeah.
So something that they do in Peru, if you're in a car and they know for a fact that they are out, that they don't have their paperwork correct, what they'll sometimes do is stop short of in plain view of the police roadblock, stop short of the police roadblock, and ask the people in the car to get out and walk up the road, and then they'll drive up to the police. And then they can say, well, I'm not transporting passengers, I don't need that paperwork. And then they'll go by, they have to pay the cop like 20 soles. And then they go on the other side and they pick you up. Everybody knows what's going on. Nobody cares. But yes, so so what I would do typically, if I'm on the highway in Peru and I'm driving, what I would typically do is take my wallet and all my cash and stash it like in a sock or something. If I'm wearing sandals, I would put it like in a backpack or whatever, and like down underneath my seat out of sight. And then I would take like 110, 120, and 150, and I would put them in different pockets. And I would know that 80 soles was my upper limit to how much I could bribe, and 10 was ridiculously low for a gringo. They would never take that much. And they would start the bidding at, here's a typical highway stop. There's a guy called, they have carreteras, highway cops on their highway patrol on the side of their trucks. They'll be parked under a tree at a blind curve, and they'll be sort of standing at the side of the road. And as you come around this blind curve, they'll wave you over and make you like pull over. And then they'll come up to you and they'll say, you didn't have your lights on, or your seatbelt, or you were going too fast, or anything like that. And that may or may not be true, but it doesn't matter. And so you would then say, oh, I don't think I was doing that. I'm pretty sure I was. He goes, no, we got you. And he says, we're going to have to write you a ticket. And they pull out their little infraction book, and they open the infraction book, and they'll look it up, and they'll say, oh, that's 1.5 UIT. And the UIT is the uniform penalty fee. And it's like, the last time I was in Peru, I think it was like 1,800 soles or something. And so they'll say like, oh, that's
like,
point.
But by the way, I'm just about to go eat lunch. So.
Yeah. No, he'll say like, that's half a UIT. That's 900 soles. He's like, I'm going to have to write you this ticket and you'll have to pay the 900 soles fine. And you'll say, oh man, here's the thing though. I'm in a super hurry. And, I'm not even sure that was the case. There's going to be a lot of paperwork. You're going to have to go. You're not going to be able to pull cars over. Maybe could we just resolve this here? And he'd say, well, let's talk about that. And he'll ask you to leave the car, and then you'll go.
Oh, you have to get out of the car and go talk.
You have to get out of the car and go back behind his car, back in the shade of this tree where there can't be anybody, nothing seeing you from any direction. And he'll say, well, listen, we can take care of it here, but what'd you have in mind? And then you'll say, well,
10 soles.
No, you would say like
how about $3? How about $3?
Yeah, you would say something like, well, listen, I understand we need to take care of it here, but the truth is I don't have that much cash with me. So what about 20? And he'd say, no. It would be 900 if you went into the town. I got to charge you like 400. And he'd be like, listen, I know you deserve the 400, but I just don't have that much cash. Why don't we say 50? And he'd say, 50 is impossible. You got to understand, I need gas. There's something wrong with the truck and we have to get it fixed and so forth. And then you would say, well, look, this is all I have. And you pull out your 3 bills. You're like, I've got 80. Could we just settle at 80? And he'd be like, 80 sounds good. You give him the money, you shake hands, and then everything gets very jovial. All of a sudden he's smiling and he's like, so where are you going?
Gives you a kiss on the cheek. I love you.
Yeah. Then it's like chit chat and everything is very friendly. There's no hard feelings on either side. It's called the highway tax in Peru.
Yeah. And rip up the ticket.
There is no ticket. He would never write a ticket because there's no profit in it for him. Yeah. Why would he want the state to get that money?
So he bought that position as well.
He probably paid his supervisor for the right to be at that stop that day with the expectation that he would then give a percentage of the take to the boss that day, who is also kicking upstairs. It goes all the way up. So yeah, that's the way it would typically go. Now, I remember one time our mom and stepdad, mom and Bruce, came down to Peru, and we rented a truck and we were driving from Chiclayo to Jaén. And I told them, like, expect us to get pulled over and me to have a hard bargaining session with a cop. And you're going to see a really weird dynamic develop. And so that happened. We got pulled over. I said, nobody say anything, smile and nod. You don't speak a word of Spanish. Even if he comes up and speaks English to you, just don't respond, like nothing. And sure enough, he tried to get them engaged. He couldn't do it. I got out, we talked, and the cop was insisting on a ridiculous amount of money, like 500 soles. And I kind of got up in his face and was very aggressive and kind of got angry with him. Like, this is not how you're doing. This is not how it's done, man. Look, we both know that this is worth 50 soles. I'll go as high as 100 to just make this thing go, to just stop having this conversation. But that's as far as I'm going. I was waving my finger in his face, and he finally was like, all right. And then it was very jovial.
No, you never imagine doing that to an American cop. You get shot for sure.
You get shot. So so I got back in the car, and mom was like, oh my gosh, Bri, what happened there? And I said, oh, no, it's fine. Because then after that, we shook hands, we were laughing. I was like, okay, man.
How would you give him? $30?
That's right. And so it was a kind of an angry confrontational bargaining session, followed by a very jovial, we both knew.
Oh yeah, and then you guys were buddies afterwards. Yeah, it's funny, the justification. It's like, hey, our car needs some more. Like, if he's gonna take the money you're giving him and go get his car fixed. It's a very funny justification.
Yeah, I've had a drunk motorcycle policeman in Peru pull up next to me, tap on my window. I rolled my window down, and he just held his hand out. That just literally a cop in uniform, reeking of booze, on a motorcycle in the middle of the day in a crowded city of Chiclayo, just pull up and just hold his hand out. And I reached into my pocket, grabbed my change that I had, and just held a handful of change out. He took a 5 and a 2, 7 soles, $2, and said, thanks, gringo, and just drove off, leaving on his motorcycle.
Of course, you feel good about calling that guy if there's like some kind of domestic issue with your neighbor.
Well, I think you feel like he's going to be. I think you feel like he's going to be very understanding about your story.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Someone broke in and robbed your house. That's you call that guy. He's Johnny on the scene.
Oh boy. So anyhow, that's just like one of the million problems.
I'm saying
this whole export, as you said, at each step we're going to encounter some apparently tough obstacles.
And even when we get out of Peru, so tell us what's going to happen to just get the cacao out of Peru to the coast. Just quickly give us a rundown of all the steps that are going to have to occur for us to successfully export cacao.
I am just now receiving a message from Oscar, who's saying the guy just left San Ignacio. The guy just left San Ignacio, but he does appear to be on the way. So we still have hopes of getting it done today because he can't work tomorrow.
Oh, so he's supposed to pick up the cacao today?
No. The inspector. I'm getting a message from Peru right now saying that he's 4 hours late. And he just left San Ignacio, which is an hour and a half from Campo, but he is supposedly coming. If he doesn't come today, then we're going to have to pay him even more money to work on Saturday. So let's hope that he does make it today, since we've already paid for him to be there.
Okay. Good times.
Oh,
all right. So we got to get the phytosanitary. Then it's got to go on a truck.
Then the truck has got to somehow make it to the coast. Oscar's got to make it to Lima on a plane. Oscar's got to renew his.
Are there still union strikes happening in certain parts?
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll know more at the end. I know that Oscar is giving the truck driver a decent amount of cash to pay road highway taxes on the way down.
Okay.
To either to police or strike or transport strike guys to let him pass.
All right.
And then we've got to get through the gauntlet of the port terminal itself.
Plenty of people need to be bribed there as well.
Plenty of people need to be paid off, and some other people need to just be willing to do their job, and we'll do the best. But this is Peru. One thing we know about Peru is that things come together chaotically and last minute. But typically, if you've got the money, you can ramrod things through. If you're willing to accept and embrace the chaos and not panic at each.
Now, the last shipments that we sent out in Peru were less chaotic. But then when the shipment leaves Peru, it's going to go up the west coast of Peru through the Panama Canal, across the Atlantic, en route to the port of Rotterdam.
How is the Panama Canal even functioning these days? Like, my gosh, makes you wonder.
Yep. And do we usually have our containers offloaded and at the Panama Canal and put on a new boat?
When they're going to the west coast of the United States, they do, because there are no boats that go from the west coast of South America to the west coast of North America. So they have to be transshipped at Balboa in Panama, and then sometimes again in Mexico.
Okay, so there's going to be one boat all the way through.
But in this case, typically it is one boat, because west coast South America to Europe is a route. It goes through the Panama Canal, and it either skirts the north edge of South America or the south edge of North America on its way across the Atlantic.
Now, the last shipment of cacao that we sent to the port of Rotterdam, they lost the container, which we have talked about.
Yes. So what we have learned is we do not book passage to Rotterdam anymore, because the container has to be offloaded from a boat in Rotterdam and then onloaded to a river barge and floated upriver to Basel, Switzerland. We're now booking passage directly to Basel, so that it's the shipping line's responsibility to do that transshipment, and it doesn't have to get into the stacks at the port of Rotterdam. That's what we've learned from that.
Something's going to happen with that shipping barge.
Oh, it'll probably sink on the way to Basel. Or something. There'll be a weird, like a 100-year board tide on the river.
But you would expect like the Dutch and the Swiss to have this thing ironed out. I guarantee you something.
Those notably chaotic Swiss, commerce and transport.
Mark my words right now. We're going to have a Suez Canal situation in the river on the way to Basel. Like,
oh boy. Yeah, I've been checking to make sure that the Evergreen is not in the river that leads to Basel from Rotterdam. Actually, we're going through Antwerp this time, which is
are we?
Apparently Antwerp is better for transshipping to the river barge to go.
What do you call the Belgians? Are they
Antwerp is Belgian, yeah.
Are they a highly organized and known for being like a very methodical people? I think they're party animals, dude.
I know them for their beer and chocolate more than their organization skills.
Look,
And the funny name of their ethnic group, the Walloons.
If people know you primarily for your beer and your chocolate,
that doesn't speak well of your organization.
Like, what do you know about Belgium? It's like a lot of beer, a lot of sweet.
Yeah. What about those Spanish? The ham. Oh, the paella is amazing. How are they like organization?
The running of the bulls,
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. That festival, that tomato thing where they throw
they throw
100,000 pounds of tomatoes at people.
How's their shipping? It's
spotty. A little spotty.
Yeah.
Spotty.
So, all right. So we're going to Belgium. A lot of beer drinking folks there.
Hopefully, they're waffles. hopefully, all the people working at the port are not drunk on Belgian ale and too full from Belgian waffles to get her done.
And if you recall, how was our pardon me for coughing? How was our last import through the port of Houston? I think it was relatively good.
It was relatively calm. Yeah,
it was good.
There are a lot of things to say about Texas, but they have the port of Houston has somehow there's a lot of trucking issues in Texas, but the port of Houston particularly seems to may have maintained a level of efficiency that none of the West Coast ports have managed to. I think that's because of the influence of all the Chinese stuff coming in on the West Coast, which is less prevalent in Houston. So
gotcha. Yeah. The last time we went into the port of Seattle, it got held up for like 5 weeks.
Oh, that was a nightmare. And Oakland is not a lot better. And everybody says that Los Angeles right now is absolutely impassable. So
all right. So that's what's going to be happening.
Yes. And so I'll be monitoring that. Like I say, not only have we had a mountain of difficulty just getting to the point where we can have the guy come and inspect the beans, but he's now 4 hours late and we're not 100% sure he's going to be there today. So
yeah, I was doing some back of the napkin math with Dan. I don't think we are going to get another shipment of chocolate here until October, mid to late October, bro.
Man, oh man,
so the chocolate that we have on hand is what we're going to have until October.
It is absolutely. And everybody's going through this. I mean,
everybody's going through it. Yeah, no, and I just want to say this because it might sound like we're griping, but we're business people. Right? And the truth is, and this was not seen. What is seen is that chocolate or any products you might buy at like Best Buy, like electronic goods, or anything you might get at the grocery store, like whatever. Somewhere behind the scenes, there's massive logistics happening, and this is all people are doing.
There's two guys, the buyers for Best Buy are doing a podcast going, it's taking us forever to get our stuff out of Vietnam or Bangladesh or wherever.
But there's people at Best Buy who they're just dealing with this.
Oh, all day long.
And it's super easy to just show up and get a thing, but behind the scenes, this is really what business and commerce is. It's people organizing the production and transportation of goods and services.
Well, my buddy Chaba,
and it's all solving problems. That's 100% what it is.
My buddy Chaba left the last mile delivery thing of Amazon to go over to Saks Fifth Avenue because he was like, quality of life, man, work-life balance. I really no, forget it. They're having every single problem, but with less resources that Amazon does. It's worldwide. But when you get into the first part of our leg, which is like from the tree to the processing facility to the port, it's extra double triple tough. And for the and for our and with all these delays and problems and extra bribes, for the pleasure of all this, we're also paying 2 to 5 times as much as we historically have for every step of this.
And one thing where it's harder for us than it would be for some huge company, like we're not harvesting stuff off a plantation that's strategically located next to one of the main thoroughfares. You know what I'm saying? Like that. If we were going to do this on a big scale, then you would buy a huge plot of land that's in a nice location where it's easy to transport. Yeah. But that ain't how our project has played itself out.
No, the problem is you're working with trees that have been around for thousands of years and have the distribution they have, and farms that have been there for a long time. And it is what it is. So and you're right. We should let people know we're here laughing about it. This is just business, and
this is what it is.
Yeah, a worse problem to have would be that a massive earthquake came and knocked down a bunch of houses, and we need to now find funds to help our farmers just have a roof over their heads. So, thank goodness that what we're talking about are delays and higher costs, and not problems that are more serious and more impactful to the families in Campo.
Yeah,
so that's the good part.
And the other reason that we're bringing this up is to give our customers and anybody who's listening just a firsthand view of how things are in producing chocolate these days compared to in the past. And supply chain issues and inflation is something that people are reading about in the news, and they can get a ground, what's the word I'm looking for, like a ground level view
Yeah,
of
yeah.
what actually causes that and what the ramifications of those things are. You might read about it in the newspaper, but this is like
That's right.
a real world, real life look at what that actually means to
Yes,
the economy.
that's right. That's right. And I think next week we should take a deep dive into climate change and how it imperils the entire cacao growth around the world, and chocolate may go extinct. We'll just take a deep dive into fun and light.
I know you're joking about that, but I actually would like to
kind of half not.
I know. Yeah. Just let you ramble on just let you get on your soapbox for 40 minutes.
And another thing.
Yeah. We're all human.
Hold on. I have more to say.
The human species will disappear 100 years from now. I know you believe that.
Far shorter than 100.
Yeah.
Far shorter.
We're joking around, but you actually believe that. So
yeah, we're joking, but not.
Yeah, I am. But you actually believe it. The other thing I want to just say before I forget, I wanted to mention it earlier, and then
Yes,
there will be one other thing I want to say too. So
okay.
First thing, you know what I like? I don't know if I want to say that I like it, but you know what I find interesting?
Yes.
How many people paint the names of politicians on their houses?
That is a bizarre. Well, they get paid to, by the way. You
Oh,
realize
I asked someone, are they getting paid? But it's every house.
Well, some people probably get paid, and other people are true believers in that party. But yes, what you're referring to is that in Peru, when election season comes around, many houses all of a sudden are painted with a massive political sign that will have the name of the candidate, the party logo, and then because in Peru the rates of literacy are a little bit lower than here, on the ballots they have the symbol of the party. You can just X out the symbol of the party, and so there will be it's kind of weird to see, because it looks like you're saying don't vote for them, but what it really means is do vote for them. You'll see the symbol of the party could be a tree, and there will be a red X through it, and what that sign is saying. And this will be on this will be on the side of people's houses or their garden wall.
Painted.
And
it's not like a sign that you stick in your yard.
No. They have painted their entire house, and it stays painted for the next several years.
And it's almost every house.
In certain election cycles, it could be almost every house. And yes, I know for a fact that I know many people, many farmers and many other people in Cajamarca who have painted their house during election season. And by the way, I know somebody who painted their house for one candidate, and the other candidate's team came along and paid them more, and they repainted it for the other candidate.
They have to paint it themselves, or do they send painters?
No. They send someone out to paint it.
All right, that's good. All right.
Yeah.
Because I was looking, I'm like, these guys can really paint. That was one thing I was thinking of. Like,
well, it's a great deal
if they're painting their own houses. These guys are all good painters.
They're amazing.
And
it's a great deal for the homeowner, because they kind of seal. These are mostly mud brick, adobe houses. The paint, they put a base layer down that kind of seals in and helps the house avoid water damage.
That's interesting.
It's actually a double great. I mean, so the homeowner has to then have this absurd political.
They don't care though.
Post. They really don't care. They got paid. It helps their house. They're fine.
Yeah. All right. The last thing I want to say for all of our wonderful listeners, go ahead and check us out at www. We should have said it at the top of the show.
Probably should have you. We're rusty.
Check us out at fortunatochocolate.com. We have several new products up since the last time you may have listened to this podcast.
Mention one of those products, Adam.
Well, we just put up
the highlight.
We just put up our 84% dark chocolate with nibs and sea salt. Great
So
product.
that's our 68% dark chocolate that is up to 84% total cacao content by the addition of nibs, which gives it an amazing crunch, an amazing deep chocolate flavor, and a very pleasant, like mellow bitterness to it.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah. And that's with sea salt, and those are like in squares.
And we've done squares, so it's not like the big thick block.
It's not a big thick block. Those are thinner and square. So for the people that write to me, and you know who you are out there, asking if we have a higher cacao percentage product, we do. It's the 84% sea salt nib squares that are out now.
And it came out really good. And
those are delicious.
We're making now preparations also, probably in the next week or so, to put the vegan brownies online as well.
That's an underrated home run.
Oh, right, we probably messed up by putting the word vegan in it, because people think it's like a vegan only thing. But it's delicious, and it's
anybody, no matter what your thoughts are on veganism, would absolutely love these brownies. They taste delicious. I mean, they're just phenomenally delicious.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Even though we're running out of time now, and we probably need to sign off. veganism is also a very situational ethics thing. That might be something, that might be something for us to talk about on the next show.
Okay.
How foreign the idea of being vegan is in Peru.
Oh my gosh, that's a great topic.
And
because,
how like,
or even just vegetarian.
if you're standing on veganism as a moral claim as opposed to a health claim, like it's unethical and immoral to eat animals. That's murder. Like, you could only think that if you live in a certain way in a certain country, because if you go to Peru, that is not going to fly. You will not convince a single person of that position.
I certainly have never heard a single Peruvian express any interest or sympathy with that.
And I could just like, I sort of talked about it a little bit, and I can immediately see like this is not going to fly.
But you're not currently eating vegetarian.
No, I'm not. But I
know you have at times in your life.
No, but I brought it up like the idea. Some people in the United States say it's it's immoral to eat animal products, and I could just see like that was not going to fly. So if you're listening to this and you're a vegan, I just would like you to accept the fact that this is a very situational. This is not a universal rule. It can't be. It cannot be, because you can't.
But I would also like to shout out to those vegans of the audience. We love you. We want your business, and we have products that are absolutely amazing.
Oh, for sure. But it's just an interesting. It's just an interesting philosophical position.
Right.
Because that varies. That idea varies from country to country.
It absolutely does.
And we'll have much wider acceptance in some places than others. But I just find it to be an interesting cultural thing.
More than true. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it, bro. Hey, why don't you go ahead and sign us off with the Fortunato jingle?
I'm going to absolutely do that. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who's listening, who's buying our stuff. We couldn't do this without you. We do this for you and for the benefit of these farm families. It's harvest time in Peru. Everybody's working hard down there. We're working hard to get these beans out, this chocolate made and sent back over here. And we just can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for buying the products and for loving them and for rating them 5 stars. And with that, I'll just say Fortunato, yum.
Thank you, everybody. Talk to you later, Brian.
Bye-bye.